The Nuts and Bolts of Writing, Season 2, a podcast where we talk about literature, the ins and outs of writing, and how to actually start writing. Today, I am going to review a video game that I really enjoyed back in 2016, Frictional Games SOMA. Soma, developed by Frictional Games in 2015, is a first person sci fi horror game set in an underwater research facility called Pathos 2. Players follow the protagonist, Simon Jarrett, as he awakens in this mysterious and desolate place after having an experimental brain scan to treat his brain injury. Overall, Soma explores themes of identity, consciousness, and the ethical implications of advanced technology. When I played it back in 2016, I was really absorbed into it. Simon is also a great character. There's no info dumping about his background whatsoever in the game. He just feels natural. In the beginning, when we're in his apartment, we get to see snippets of his life and hobbies, like the movies he watches and the books he reads. He's someone who enjoys fiction and stories, including horror. Who knew he would end up in a literal horror story? As he eventually discovers, he's no longer in 2015 in Toronto, Canada. He's 100 years in the future, at the bottom of the ocean in an underwater research facility. Even more frightening, he's not in his own body. He's in a roboticized corpse that belongs to a woman who worked at the underwater facility. Somehow, his brain scan had been reactivated and put inside the corpse by WoW, an artificial intelligence that does whatever it can to preserve human life. Soma's atmosphere is incredibly immersive and oppressive, effectively creating a sense of isolation and dread. The game tackles existential questions that make players contemplate the nature of their own existence. The storytelling is masterful, and without spoiling too much, it delves deep into the philosophical implications of consciousness transfer and what it means to be human. Specifically, it raises the following questions. What does it mean to be human? Can consciousness be transferred or copied through brain scans? What ethical responsibilities do we have when it comes to creating artificial intelligence and altering our own bodies? Is an artificial life worth living? These questions linger long after the game is finished, especially the last one. Spoiler: when one of Simon's copies makes it onto the Ark, a virtual reality that will be launched into space to protect brain scans of the last humans from the apocalypse, I thought about what being on the Ark was like and whether it was worth it. Sure, the brain scans on the Ark won't be obliterated by the impending apocalypse since they will be in a solar powered flying object in space, but they are just brain scans trapped in a metal tube. They believe they are human inside the tube, as shown in the epilogue when Simon feels like he's in his human body again, but in reality, they are not. So, despite the Ark having been launched to protect humanity, humanity has already ended. As for its gameplay, Soma focuses on exploration, puzzles, and stealth. The lack of combat encourages players to be more cautious and strategic in their approach, reinforcing the sense of vulnerability and fear. However, this can make the gameplay boring for many people. I, for one, found it quite boring, since many hours of the game were dedicated to exploring repetitive corridors, and the only interactive parts were hiding from monsters and fetching items from other rooms or reading files on computers. However, Soma intensifies the horror experience by removing combat, making players feel genuinely vulnerable and defenseless in the face of the unknown. This sense of powerlessness enhances the emotional journey and keeps players engaged with the story throughout. All in all, I give Soma 4 out of 5 stars. If the game were more engaging, for example, it had limited combat like in Frictional Games' recent game, Amnesia: The Bunker, it would have been more fun. I think certain sections of the story and map could have been simplified too. The game is around 9 hours long, and I think it could have worked better if it was only 3 hours long. It would have been more emotional if it was condensed too. A shorter length would also discourage people from giving up on the game. I gave up multiple times in 2016 because the screen's colors was hurting my eyes and it was very difficult to get past some of the underwater scenes.